Welcome back. As we've reported, the Director General of the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, was in Turkey today meeting with both the Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministers amid rising concerns about the safety of Ukraine's nuclear facilities. Russia is now in control of Ukraine's largest nuclear power plant, and yesterday Ukraine announced the nuclear facility in Chernobyl has lost power. Now, the IAEA said they are not seeing any critical safety impact at Chernobyl yet. Clinton Watts, a distinguished research fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute and an MSNBC contributor, is with me. He's at the big board. We're going to break down Russia's latest move. And Clint, I guess the question is how many of these facilities around the country, we know one's in Russian hands, are these Russian targets?
Yeah, so what's interesting, Chuck, is it's really twofold. This is Chernobyl up here to the north. That's the one we're all worried about because the historical legacy of it. Power going off there, it seems like there's very low risk of an actual nuclear meltdown, but we don't know, right?
They've lost data, right? They used to have this sort of data that they were getting the IAEA, and they don't have it, right?
Yeah, and that's critical to just understand what's going on. I think that's the second part of this, which is really fear. In both Zaporizhzhia, which is the largest nuclear plant, this one here, part of that is siege warfare militarily. You can control the power. You can turn things off. You can turn things on. But separately, it's just what would they do with it? We know that the Russians use nuclear to stoke fear, both with the West, to bring people to the negotiating table, or for disinformation. The Ukrainians are doing something here, essentially a provocation to justify the Russian population why they're in Ukraine. So I think that's why it's particularly dangerous over time.
Tell us about the Russian troop movements. Are they stalled again, or are we seeing a different, or is this the same sort of slow, sort of trying to choke Kyiv over time?
Yeah, so two parts, Chuck. Down here in the south, what we've seen them, and in particular, I think what I would note is in the southern part, you're seeing them advance, but it's a caterpillar now. You know, they're moving just very, very slowly. And what they would like to get to is Dnipro. This is on the Dnieper River, and it brings together this other axis, possibly from Sumy. This would be cutting the country essentially in half. But they're meeting major resistance from the Ukrainians here. They've also moved to Mykolaiv, meeting tons of resistance as well.
That is far west as they've attempted, because they would like to get Odessa. Right?
They would like to get Odessa. They want to move all the way here to Transnistria to link up with that ethnic Russian population and make what is really known as Novorossiya.
Are you surprised they haven't backfilled? So they had about the 200,000 troops. We know they're all in country now. They have more troops. Are you surprised they haven't backfilled at least here in the Black Sea?
Yeah, so one of the open questions is, will they do, essentially, if they can get right here, if they can move all the way through, secure this northern part, take the Black Sea in Odessa, which is such a major center for everything, commerce and people, can they bring in then by sea, essentially do landing craft, naval resupply from the sea? I think the bigger issue is what they're doing in the north. This is where they're at in and around Kyiv. And yesterday we were talking about three axes of advance. Got major fighting here and here today, but they're not making much ground. The Ukrainians are putting up stiff resistance. This is back towards the convoy here that was coming into town again. So they're circling around to the west, but they're struggling, Chuck. This is inching forward.
And, you know, we've been talking about these MiGs and about whether to bring them in. What is the status of air? We know nobody has control of the skies, neither Russia nor Ukraine. And it's really Ukraine's surface to air that has been the dominant feature so far of this. What is the status?
So the Russian Air Force is just not doing well. They are doing bombing runs, but they're flying at low altitudes. They're coming in. You can see on video they're being shot down like crazy. They've lost tons of helicopters, particularly.
Is this just bad strategy or bad intelligence, bad planning? How would you put it?
Well, it comes down to weapon systems as well. They're using a lot of old-style weapons, dumb bombs, dumb munitions. They do have precision-guided advanced weaponry, but they're not using it a lot. No one knows exactly why. Are they conserving it? What are they saving it for? Or they just don't have the targeting mechanisms to do it. In the U.S. military, we are very good about doing surgical targeting. The Russians, they don't really have this.
We'd been told for the last 10 years Russia was modernizing its army. Are we learning that this is a house of cards?
I think portions of it are modernized, but look at what they're trying to do. They're attacking across. I mean, you're talking about a country, Ohio to Maine. They're trying to attack basically from Michigan to Tennessee.
But only with 20% of their force.
Yeah.
I mean, the Powell Doctrine was, forget the whole Powell Doctrine. They don't subscribe to it, clearly, right?
They don't. And they are all about using mass force, armored divisions with massive fires, but they're even holding back because they can't do logistics. This is the one thing that, compared to Western militaries, they can't do logistics the same way. They had trouble in Georgia many years ago, over a decade ago. Same struggles here. When you look at these convoys that are coming in, they've got two big ones here. This one and this one, which kind of comes down to Kyiv. It is a logjam, and the Ukrainian military is doing such a great job of striking these convoys, slowing it down, blowing bridges behind the forward advance. I mean, just remarkable fight so far. And this, I really think this march to Kyiv and beyond, we're talking 1 to 2 months of the way that they're going. For them to secure these rear areas, and that goes to chemical, Chuck, if I could add one thing. Kharkiv, this is very close to the Russian border. They're meeting resistance here, and the false flag sort of claims.
Right.
Kharkiv.
That's where
this is something to watch for in the next week.
Clint Watts, this was great, very educational, if you will, for us. So thanks very much.